Hi, everybody. So this is video 3 of talking about the persuasion. There are persuasion speeches. So what I was talking about in the previous video was what are possible argument speeches, persuasion speeches that people could talk about in relation to this new situation that we're in. So the world is changing. So there are all kinds of things. So it just occurred to me as I was ready to come up here. I don't know if people can see that. This is a painting that a friend of mine, a woman that I knew actually went to community college years ago, did for me. You're probably not going to see it, but it says "lust" on the, into the sultry nightscape that she created, and it made me think about, how the rules of things are changing. So what would it be? I'm at home right now, and what would it be if I had, pictures of women in bikinis on the wall and such here? Is that creating a hostile learning environment for people? On one hand, this is my home. On the other hand, I'm conducting class right now. So this is new territory for us. If this is going to be a long-lasting situation, does the college, do students have a right to complain about the decoration of someone's home if it's distracting or problematic for learning environment? Similarly, there are going to be summer classes. What you wear is, a guy not wearing a shirt on Zoom, a student in a house without air conditioning. It could be 95 degrees in that room, and the teacher might say, come on, put a shirt on. And he's like, I can't. It's burning up in here. It's all I could do to just sit and watch this thing. So these are interesting things. And if everybody can see everybody on Zoom, is it distracting? Does it make you uncomfortable to be taking class with people, not completely dressed? And yet you can imagine that there's a good reason not to be wearing, fully clothed for that. So these are possible new world, new situations that people could make argument speeches about. This is Jack Daniels, right? So I'm in my home, and if I just decided to take a drink now, am I drinking on the job? There's a no alcohol policy at the college. Not supposed to teach while intoxicated, but I'm home, and I won't post a video unless I'm sure that it's responsible and I'm not falling over and whatnot. So would that be a problem? And so these are possible arguments, possible persuasive topics that people could think about in our new situation. What about, are the rules of relationships changing? Are there like quarantine, pandemic relationship policies? If you're somehow suddenly find yourself stuck in a house with roommates you sort of didn't know too well, and you end up hooking up, is that cheating on your boyfriend, girlfriend who you're not stuck with, but you don't have access to because of these special situations? Do prison rules apply? Are you changing your orientation if you're with someone of the same or opposite gender, but that's not your normal orientation? Is that like, well, it's during quarantine, it doesn't count? Or does it? Or is it, what's up with that? Similarly, if you're cyber whatever with strangers through all these things that young people seem to do, are you cheating? Again, these are different things that can come up as related to the new situation that we're in. Blah, 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 blah. There was an article that I read talking about that when this ends, we should get rid of dress codes in the office, because let's face it, people are functioning perfectly fine in t-shirts and doing legitimate work for their jobs in pajamas. So does it really matter that do women need to wear heels anymore going back to the office someday? Does that make a difference? Because you can be just as professional whether you wear a tie or heels or nylons, because you're doing the same work. So I read that. That's an argument that's out there. So again, this is me trying to point out the possibility of things that people can talk about in in this changed world. You don't have to. You could do your speech on things as if the world is the same and all those topics are perfectly valid and such. Another thing that just popped up, if this continues into the fall, what about people who are scheduled to go to either for the first time or to a college that costs $40,000 to live on campus, to be in the dorm in the quad, and have that experience of that social experience when you get to live away at school, especially at like a fancy Ivy League school or some kind of elite school. But if we're still in this situation, is it worth $40,000 to take online classes from Yale or Princeton when you're not actually there? When you're just getting this, how much better, what more value are you getting taking public speaking at Princeton for maybe 10 times the cost, when basically you get some guy like me in a room like this doing exactly this, and you don't have the experience of being with people who are at Princeton and so forth. So again, these are possible arguments that can go either way, which is what makes them really interesting. Because someone could make the speech that yes, it is still, you get a better quality from that experience for some reason, even if it is online, and someone else could make the argument, no, it's ridiculous. Everybody should just go to just sign up at community college and save money, and it's the equalizer now because we're all in our bedrooms. And that's the same thing with all these topics that I just said. Each a person could argue either side. Two different people could argue two different sides, and there is no right answer. Some people say no, if you're cyber hooking up with a stranger because of the quarantine, that's still cheating. And someone else could say, well, the quarantine changes things and stuff, and then they're equally potentially valid arguments. So those are the kinds of topics that people can talk about with quarantine. What I just want to remind people what topics you're not supposed to talk about. So again, no death penalty, no abortion, no topics that would seem to be of the hate speechy type thing, meaning no anti-gay or anti-this group kind of speech in any way. So like no against gay marriage, or gay people shouldn't adopt. So those speeches, and then as I said in class, and I'll say again, no speeches about the maggot pusworm asshole that's impersonating a human being and currently president of this country. So just none of that. I don't want any talk of him. Who would have thought that one could cause genocide basically by being so incompetent? And in my view, that is what's going on. And I tweeted out an article from The Atlantic a couple days ago that enumerates all the ways that the grossness, the severity of the pandemic in the United States is Trump's fault. The start of it is not, but how bad it is most certainly his responsibility. And I'm not making an argument; I'm just making an assertion here. And but if people want to read the details, which should be obvious, if you're just paying attention to the news, but if you need to, I did tweet out that article that condenses and puts all the evidence into one space. So again, just to review that quickly, no speeches on things that it's just like too big. The death penalty, abortion, and those kinds of things. And people have done a lot of thinking, and there's been a lot of writing about that. And so to come in for 7 to 9 minutes and take on some of those large issues that people really already have their minds made up on really isn't going to be helpful to us. So, okay, so I think I've covered all that. I think the next video is just going to be like a basic review of the persuasion speech. Okay, one more. Thank you very much. Hold on.